Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here, Mr. Hanson. Just a few questions. First of all, we obviously see far too many officers killed across the country in the line of duty every year. What steps is the department taking to prioritize the safety of our law enforcement officers all across the country?
Well, in addition to the executive order that the President issued very early in his term, calling for our efforts to protect law enforcement, I think those priorities are reflected in the budget request for FY 2018. As I also mentioned, we have an upcoming, the Attorney General has created a task force on crime reduction, and within that task force there's a subcommittee specifically devoted to, as we call it, Back the Blue, and that is particularly to protecting and promoting the safety and wellness of law enforcement officers. Within the numerous programs that we have within OJP and COPS and OVW to a lesser extent to protect the police. One in particular I'll highlight is the Valor Initiative, and that's a 5-part program looking at a variety of areas that we can assist law enforcement officers, providing officer safety and wellness training, active shooter response and training, de-escalation training and technical assistance, officer safety and wellness programs to hopefully drive police fatalities to zero, and also a research and evaluation program.
Thank you. As a longtime member of this committee, 20-plus years now, I want to commend the President on the emphasis that he's putting on keeping our brave men and women in uniform across the country to be as safe as possible. It's a very dangerous job. We've had far too many killed over the years. I've been to far too many of the candlelight ceremonies here in Washington, and also too many funerals back in my district in the city of Cincinnati over the years too. So I want to commend him for that and urge him to keep up his attention on this issue. Let me move on to a couple other things real quickly. During the last hearing, I had asked about the body-worn cameras and the pros and cons associated with officers wearing such devices. What are the eligible uses for grant awards in support of body-worn cameras?
Within our body-worn camera program, that could also be funded through, I believe, the Burn Justice Assistance Grants program as well. We provide for, obviously, acquisition of equipment, so actual body cameras, as well as policies and procedures for their use, implementation, and technology associated with that.
Okay, thank you. When I first came here, again a long time ago, President Clinton was in office, and he had pushed the COPS program, which a number of Republicans, including myself, had taken a look at, in general supported, although we had some concerns. One of the concerns that we had was that it put some cities in the position where they would hire folks for a couple of years with federal dollars, and then unfortunately the dollars went away after a couple of years, and the cities couldn't necessarily afford to keep them on. People got laid off. Would you want to comment on that, and have we done anything to adjust that, to address that issue?
I believe so. I mean, as I'm sure you know, the program is designed such that we do provide federal resources for the first few years with the understanding and requirement that the local jurisdiction maintains, doesn't simply lay off. Obviously, there are challenges fiscally and otherwise in local jurisdictions, and I wouldn't be able to speak authoritatively, but I do know we try to work with local jurisdictions to ensure they're complying with the requirements of the program.
Thank you. The President has been outspoken on making sure that our local communities are complying with federal law with respect to enforcing our immigration laws, and it's been a fairly controversial topic in some cities and states across the country. Would you want to comment on if communities declare themselves sanctuary cities, what impact that might have on federal funding?
Yes, particularly within the Department of Justice. So simply declaring that they are a sanctuary jurisdiction in and of itself might trigger suspicion, but it wouldn't immediately trigger action on our part. In accordance with the Attorney General's grant funding memo of May 22nd, we're looking particularly at 3 grant programs administered through the Department of Justice. That's the COPS program, the Burn JAG program, as well as SCAP payments, particularly where we're going to require jurisdictions to certify that they are in compliance with 8 U.S.C. 1373 as a condition of receiving any grant funding under those programs.
Okay, thank you. And as my time is wrapping up, let me just comment on one final thing. The opioid addiction and deaths as a result of that has just been a tragedy all across the country, including my state of Cincinnati. And I saw a figure the other day that said that back in 1980, I think there were about 10,000 deaths nationwide due to overdose on drugs, and that's gone from 10,000 to almost 60,000 last year. Would you want to comment? And Mr. Chairman, if you'll give me an additional 30 seconds, I would greatly appreciate it.
Without objection.
Thank you very much.
That is a priority of this administration, this Attorney General. Under the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, we have created the Combating Opioid Addiction Program. Significant resources are being devoted in FY17 and requests for FY18, in addition to other existing resources of well over a total of over $100 million devoted particularly to addressing that crisis and hopefully creating an environment where folks either choose not to become addicted to opioids or assist them in becoming free of that scourge.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.
Thank you.